Cool.
Yay, we're live. How are you?
I am good. Sorry, I'm
Very nice.
There it is.
Amazing. Very nice to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time. To be honest, like I am actually quite nervous of speaking to you. Super pioneer in the space. I mean, what an honor.
Thanks. Yeah, it's exciting to be on here. I've been trying to make more of an effort to be a little more public or whatever the last few months, and that comes with that Twitter persona that I put off. I'm quite a bit different probably behind the scenes than what comes off there, but
nice. Well, I'm really looking forward to chatting all things NFT, crypto, everything. So I'll kick it right off. And actually, my first question is, you've been building, investing, developing, like working in this space for a very long time. What got you started?
So I guess initially the same thing that's probably kind of bringing a bunch of people in right now is, the big numbers that are getting flashed, back in the day, and in 2017 it was Cryptokitties, the $100,000 sales for these digital pieces of art or whatever. That's what caught my attention is the the articles around that stuff. And where I was at, I was trying to just figure out how that made any sense, like in the same way that I'm sure people are doing right now, where they're coming on and they're seeing like these alien sales or the Beeple sales that are just insane amounts of money to maybe somebody who's outside of this world a little bit. That's really where it started for me. This is kind of the same way as really a lot of people here, except the difference was it was a few years ago. And then I expect even then in CryptoKitties, there was a bit of a gold rush. There was like 100,000 people that, figured out how to sign up to MetaMask and bought some cats, and they're buying overpriced stuff because nobody really understood the market. Nobody knew what was going on or anything. But, I'm guessing that's probably happening now too, a little bit. There's a bit of a gold rush. There's some stuff that, is probably not going to hold up super well longer term. And, it's hard to predict. I mean, I remember like this Mooncats sensation now. I saw that project years ago and I thought, well, it's been dead for years, so why would it all of a sudden, it's hard to say what will catch everybody's interest one day in the future. So,
So you saw Mooncats when it was created initially?
So not when it was created initially, but a friend of mine that he just loves cats, and he knew that I was a big Cryptokitties collector. He had shared it with me, and I guess it was probably 2018 or maybe it was 2019. So I made one of them, and I thought this is a pretty cool project, but it's not even worth the gas to claim these. Now I would probably claim 1,000 of them or whatever. But at the time, it just seemed kind of pointless. NFTs were, they were the niche they were just so deep that nobody, even in crypto, really cared about them. I had a friend at my last job, and we played Cryptokitties together for a while, and even he didn't really see the potential or the future in him. He basically sold everything in 2018 and kind of became more hands off out of the space or whatever. He's more of a traditional person. I mean, because it's incredibly time consuming to keep up with everything going on. I must spend 80 hours a week in this space, and there's shit that I miss all the time. I missed the resurrection of the Mooncat thing. I saw it and I thought, oh, I feel like I remember those. And then I just ignored it. And, it's rare that I miss something that's so obvious, but even now it's hard to keep up with everything.
Okay, so if you miss things, then I feel better if I miss things, because I always miss things. So at least, I know that there's other people that miss it. And if you miss it, then it's okay.
It happens. I mean, it's hard to deal with too. Some of my friends kind of joke with me because I get in Discord, I'm jokey about the stuff, but I'll get disappointed or be upset that I wasn't around to buy something that pranked bot, even though like I would have. And it just is, but it's impossible. I mean, you can put 100 hours into this space and you're still going to be missing shit every day. I mean, I don't even know. I took the whole day off yesterday, which is rare, and I'm probably 1,000 messages behind now. So I mean, like, who knows what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine, you know, the amount of stuff that you get in. But actually, I wanted to ask you, you know, you said like Cryptokitties, like nobody like knew what was going on. So like, how did you, I guess, like, how did you give, like, why did you thought that the project was like worth it in a way, or was it a gamble? Like, yeah.
So really, I mean, if I'm being honest, like when I first got into Cryptokitties, I didn't see like the longer term collectible vision still. Like it took me months to really understand that. But there were people that were collecting like the fancies, or they were collecting gems or whatever. And it didn't make any sense to me. Like, why are these people paying this? They could just breed it for cheaper. But I could, with, you know, with math and with tools and stuff, me and some friends would create these ultra efficient farms, and we would make fancies for super cheap, and we'd sell them to these collectors, and we would think, yeah, we're printing money, we're geniuses and shit. And like we were doing the grind so these other guys could collect. And it really wasn't until this guy goes by Nifty Report on Twitter, Go West, came in, and he started dropping, like, at the time it was just insane, like 10 or 20 ether on cats. And we were like, holy shit, this whale is in here and he's spending a shitload of money on these things, and we're gonna, and like that's what kind of like made me think, oh, shit, man, like this maybe there is something bigger here. You know, taking that longer term approach instead of grinding and trying to make $1,000 a week or something, which, I mean, in Cryptokitties was possible in mid 2018. You could breed fancies with a super efficient farm and make $1,000, and that seemed like a lot of money at the time, and it was cool as like a passive like thing you were doing. But I think when he came in and sort of just like started buying all the best shit, and that's what you see now too. You've got Danny or Seed Phrase who came into punks, and he started spending what seemed like outrageous amounts. Even 6 months ago, he spent, I think he spent 250 ETH on an autoglyph set. And I just thought, man, what this dude, like, fuck, man, he's buying the top. Like, there's no way. And now it's like, oh shit, that's worth millions probably. Like he's, but I mean, I don't really know where I'm going with that, I guess, but like that's all this stuff that these guys coming in doing this stuff, like that's really, it took me 6 or 7 months of trying to make a little small profit to start seeing bigger picture stuff and think, and like, you know, I got a very large collection now too, and I have, you know, even a year ago. So I quit my job, my last job about a year ago, and I remember thinking, okay, when NFTs take off, I should do fairly well with my collection. It's probably going to take a big chunk of my collection to end up with a decent amount of money in the bank or whatever. But the reality is my collection I feel like it's gotten more valuable, and it just is insane how little of that stash has been like eaten away into with I mean, because the demand is just insane. Like it's it's amazing to me that, and you could never, you know, I was around on punks for $20 a piece, and I remember looking at them and thinking, nobody cares about these. These are not going anywhere. Like, fuck. But
I mean, to be honest, to listen to this, it's like it's really cool because, you know, it's like kind of like the real origins of like everything. And I'm also like asking myself, like, what was it like when it was like, you know, 2017, 2018? Like, what were like other people saying about, like, you know, you might have thought, oh, this is kind of cool, and like, what was the perception of, let's say, you know, Cryptokitties or CryptoPunks?
so I have some core like groups of Discord people that I've kept in touch with that have been in the space regularly and been, you know, like my friends in the space. And I've got like a group that was like the NFT group, and we were just, you know, constantly making fun of ourselves or just being downers all of 2018, all of 2019. Like fuck, man, this stuff is going nowhere. We put all this money in, and like we saw this future that nobody sees, and nobody cares about this stuff. And I had another group of like crypto friends, and they were more like tech savvy, like maybe DeFi type guys or hacker type level guys. But like those guys, they always thought NFTs were dumb. So that was kind of a weird, it's a weird section for me where I had this group of NFT friends who I consider to be really intelligent and really, ahead of the curve here. And then I got this group of these like DeFi guys who think the opposite of what they're thinking. So, I mean, for the most part, the sentiment was that they were junk. They were garbage, that maybe we were, buying into this meme of digital ownership and that doesn't mean anything or something. And that's kind of where, we lived for 2 years of just suffering, really. I mean, that's the best way I can put it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny that you say digital ownership doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, I guess because people would throw that out there and I would wonder, like, did we buy into something that we think we're understanding? Like, because it's a weird concept. And, ultimately all that matters is, are more and more people going to come around to this idea? And for years it seemed like, fuck, maybe they're not. Maybe nobody is going to come around to this. I mean, now, I can't say what's going to happen in the next month or 2 months. And no, I mean, nobody can. Anybody pretending is just LARPing it up. They're saying, oh, Elon Musk tweets about NFTs now. Yeah, but, I mean, I'm being cautious right now, I guess I would say, as far as like, as much as I want to buy some elite level NFTs. And, I did the big bid on the Genesis recently, but I'm being cautious at the time. I kind of forgot where I was even going with that. I'm sorry.
So why are you being cautious? That's interesting.
This is where I was going. So I think that NFTs now, like the reach that they have now, the influence that they have now, they have pretty much established themselves as, this is the fucking future. Like, there's no doubt in my mind anymore that NFTs are going to be enormous in the future. In 10 years, I can't say to what scale they'll be at, but a house could be it sounds fucking stupid to say, but a house could be an NFT that you can sell. I think that they have the opportunity to kind of what's the right word for this? They have the opportunity to sort of make markets more efficient. I mean, one example, I was talking to my dad the other day and I was telling him about, if you had if your house was on a blockchain, somebody could buy it from another state that just saw it as an investment opportunity. They said, oh, this area, that's actually low price for this area. You wouldn't even have to visit it. You could just buy and own the house and relist it at a higher price because you were speculating on the housing market in a city that's 1,000 miles away. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy shit that I think will happen eventually. But yeah, I guess really what I'm trying to say is that a year ago, it was like, fuck, man, nobody's really taken to this idea. Maybe we're just a few weirdos who spent a ton of money and tried to predict the future and we're just wrong. Like, probably how Bitcoin guys felt once upon a time too. Now, it's inevitable. Like, Tesla buying Bitcoin is, the government's not going to shut them down now. It's the thing. That doesn't mean that the price will keep going up forever, but it does mean that it's not going to zero in a day. I mean, it's here, That's I kind of think NFTs have taken that next leap now where they're here.
Yeah. And what do you, so you said like you had like NFTs and then DeFi. Do you think that there's like still that divide, or like, what do you think about DeFi versus NFTs?
So there's I think there is still a bit of a rivalry between the two groups a little bit, and because it's hard and I've been maybe not ultra like DeFi crazy or whatever, even though I think it's cool. I just think that NFTs are cooler, and I I think we'll see more projects that kind of hit both of them. And this is something that I thought was really important. Like, so NFTX has done really well since they launched, because they did such a good job with, or in my opinion, they did such a good job getting like OG NFT collectors in, people with large collections and with influence. And they basically gave them a shitload of token. They gave them a shitload of money at the front for, being NFT, having that kind of influence and power. But anyways, liquidity has always been sort of a problem with NFTs, where, and actually I did a project over a year ago, the wrapped Gen Zero stuff, where you could, and this was spun off from wrapped Cryptokitties, which was the first, I think, instance of like an attempt to make an NFT into like a liquid fungible token, where basically, if you don't know it, you could wrap a CryptoKitty, you get a WCK token, and it's backed 1-to-1 by a CryptoKitty. So that could be tradable on like Uniswap or whatever. But if you wanted to get a cat, it is backed 1-to-1 by a cat. So you just burn a token and then you get a cat. I mean, I thought that was a really cool idea. So I expanded that to Gen Zeros, because I said, well, gas is too high of a barrier for shit cats. You can't wrap a cat that's worth $1, because you're spending that in gas. There's no real, I felt like they were different products, I guess. Like the WCK would be more of a swapperoo, like, oh, that's a cool cat. I have this cool cat. They're both worthless, but I'd trade this one for that one, kind of thing. Whereas WG0 is more like an NFTX. People can, okay, I want to speculate on CryptoKitties, but I don't know anything about the market. I don't know shit. But Gen Zeros, there's only 50,000 of those maximum by the contract. So that seems scarce. Oh, there's this coin, I can buy it and I can move in and out of a position without having to accumulate 100 and then have to list them and find 100 buyers. And I mean, I felt like that was really important. Sorry, I ramble a lot, but I think that's like the intersection, DeFi and NFT, the lines will just continue to get blurred, and you'll see kind of crossover between the two more and more. And they'll just both be kind of inevitable, where both groups have to acknowledge each other and say, okay,
yeah. I guess like what you were saying is like people buying into like Cryptokitties, not knowing what they're going into, but buying the token that represents like the kitties. It's kind of like an easier way in rather than going straight into the kitties. Is that a good understanding, kind of?
Yeah, it's an easier way in and also out. So let's say you're a complete noob, you've heard of CryptoKitties, and you like the speculative, and this isn't a shill for token that is that honestly doesn't have a lot of liquidity in the pool. So by all means, I'm not saying like dump your whole, that's anything I'm saying is not that, but I just am saying,
we'll put a disclaimer afterwards.
Yeah. Like if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to put 10 Ether into CryptoKitties because you felt like, okay, this is a good project. It was the first DRC 721. That seems significant. It seems significant to me. But anyways, you could take 10 Ether, and instead of knowing what cats you were going to buy, you could just buy one of these liquid tokens. And then if tomorrow you changed your mind, you could then just sell them all on the Uniswap, and you'll eat some slippage fee. But the fact that you can move in and out of an NFT position like that, I think is kind of the big thing here. So that's really more the idea with this.
Yeah. And you obviously like there's a big part of like all of these projects which is like the on-chain factor, and I think like like there's a lot of talk about like on-chain projects, and I just wanted to like first of all, like what is like said from the person that has built so many projects, like what does on-chain mean?
So I think, and this is something, so if I got to shout out to Jimmy, he was really kind of the first like guy that was like passionate about this thing. And it started, the way that he tells his story is that he had bought his CryptoKitties, and his understanding was that the CryptoKitties image was actually on the token or was somehow there. And when he found out it wasn't, and he realized that his token just had some data on it, it just kind of like, it made him kind of feel like, well, if I'm in these shoes, other people must be in these shoes. And like, it took him a while. He pounded on this for a while and everybody just thought he was crazy. And then like I started like looking into it and thinking, yeah, this is fucking shit, man. Like you buy an NFT and it can just get deleted, or not only it can get deleted out of like maliciousness, but in 5 years, this person's like, fuck this. I'm not paying my hosting fees anymore because I don't make any money off this project. This shit's gone. So that's where it kind of like started. Like, shit, man, we need to try to do something about this. We need to inform people. Dude, a lot of NFTs are not good. They're not really made for the long haul. You think it's on a blockchain, I'm gonna have it forever, I own it. Doesn't mean anything if it's gone in 5 years. And there's a lot of NFTs that will be gone in 5 years. If their creators don't want to host the images anymore, just going to happen. So yeah, with that, like the on-chain movement, I did, the chain faces, the ASCII text stuff. That was kind of inspired by like autoglyphs and also what Jim was building with Avastars. And then, I did the Squiggly project and really just the whole thing. And like, I have no intentions of like doing a solo project that doesn't like have this emphasis. And I don't think that every project needs to be like 100% on chain. That's like my own personal goal to do. There's a reason that like chain faces are simple. Squiggly is literally like fucking squiggly lines. Like there's a reason they're simple, but it's because the emphasis was more on like a technical showcase than like this amazing aesthetic that is being hosted on a server or whatever. I think it's going to be more and more important. All it takes is one of these big name projects or whatever. It takes somebody to go under and people to see, holy shit, like these NFTs that I spent thousands of dollars on are just disappeared, to start kind of, I think, appreciating what we're really trying to do here. Because there's not a lot of emphasis on like the technical integrity of the tokens or whatever, but that, we've been kind of loud and vocal about that. And I think more people have grasped onto that and tried to understand it and kind of get the nuance. Like I'll say that IPFS is a pretty good solution. I like it as a not chain solution, but it is still strong. I think pieces that are on that are good. They're fine. It's not a hit piece against them. But if you talk about like composable contracts and you want to, look at who the artist owner, what, there's not really an on-chain way to do that if the metadata isn't on-chain. So that's been like the other piece that we've been trying to really kind of push out there, is that to be on like on the contract and on chain, that's like what we want to make sure is on the tokens that we're making and stuff. We want you to have a trustless way to interact with the data that's on these tokens. It's shit that literally doesn't matter this year and it won't matter next year. But like 5 years from now, when there's all these metaverse interactions, like hopefully our tokens will be somewhat usable or accessible in that world, whereas maybe some of these other ones won't be.
Yeah, that's interesting because like, like I consider, like I'm learning about all of this, right? And like, I think there's a big part of a lot of people that actually don't know the difference between like on-chain, like actually on-chain and not. So like it's good to like, speak about it and to have like projects, like Avastars and, like Tiny Boxes, like all of the projects that you guys are building that are on chain. And that's why, like I asked, tell us like what on-chain means, because I actually don't think a lot of like, I speak for myself, but I've recently like actually went into and let me like fully understand what is something that is on-chain and something that is like partly or like slightly on-chain.
Yeah, it's not just you. I think it's still a majority, honestly, because it's harder to really get the information out there as fast as people are, especially now, as fast as they're flooding in. I've seen it a few times. People have tried to claim some other project that's older as the first on-chain project or some shit. And then I like, okay, well, let me look at the contract, and I go and look, and it's like, no, that's not the same thing. Like, yeah, the token is on chain inherently. That's the NFTs are all on chain, but like the difference between something like Squiggly and some old project that looks super simple. Like, I've seen it a few times with old generative projects, especially. They've come out and they stored the data. They were thoughtful about how they put the data on there, but all they really did is store some like numbers, and then they have some sort of API that looks at that, and it does a shitload of processing, and then some generation stuff to like create it's all this back end magic. Whereas something like Squiggly, you can literally go to the contract, you just type in your token number ID, and under generate SVG or whatever the function's called, you click the button, and then the whole thing is there. So like, there's processing to go from SVG code to actual an image. That's all standard web stuff. I mean, it's not going anywhere. So I think that compared to some arbitrary scripting backend magic shit, like I don't want to name any projects, by name or whatever, and like shoot them, but like some of these projects, they're, oh yeah, this was on chain before autoglyphs, and like, no, it wasn't. Like, dude, you take away the backend script that's making that magic, there's no way to reproduce that token from the information that you can get from the contract. It's just, I mean, that's the reality. I see all this shit. I saw somebody say that Mooncats was the first on-chain project. Now I'm like, what the fuck? Or like, nobody was thinking about this or doing this stuff then. There's nothing wrong with that because nobody was doing it. This stuff predates all this shit. And this isn't to say that on-chain projects are shit, because, you have this decentralized community thing anyway. So, communities could manage to keep the code together, keep the code base living forever their own way. They could maybe retroactively add this stuff to the chain somehow. So, I mean, but I guess where I'm going with this is that there are still very few projects that I would consider like 100% on chain. Like, it's hard to do. It's gas intensive. It limits, the resolution that you can do your art at or whatever. And, there's a lot of people don't really see the benefit of doing it because it requires thinking about this shit 5 years down the road or whatever.
Yeah. And I guess it kind of like intersects quite a bit with like actual digital ownership in a way, like, like, and actually like owning it and it being on the blockchain and, kind of like forever in a way, right?
Yeah. I mean, so I had, when I had like done even chain faces, there's like some processing to get to OpenSea. Like I store the text color and the background color as integers, and then my API is to take that and turn them into a hex color, and then it applies that. But I think just having that information out there, if I'm gone and if OpenSea is down or whatever, somebody wants to recreate a chain face, all they have to know is, oh, this integer just needs to be converted into a hex color, which is pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
But there's still that small amount of processing. But I think like the goal for like at least projects that I'm trying to do are like have everything recreatable without anything. All you literally have to know is, okay, this is the token I own. This is the contract that made those tokens. I'm at the contract now. I just interact with this function. Boom, there it is. That's kind of the magic, I guess. I think that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I actually have some questions here. So, do we have a list of 100% on chain?
That is a good question. And no, I think really the answer is no, I don't. I mean, we've got, Autoglyphs was, as far as I can tell, the first one. I haven't seen anything else that did that before them. You've got Avastars. You've got chain faces. I mean, I also I kind of have this concept of like levels of on-chainness. So
yeah.
Even like autoglyphs, you've got the ASCII text string stored, and you can go to the draw function and put in your ID and get that. But then there's still like the processing to turn it into the grid glyph that you see. So, I mean, I count that as on chain because all you have to know is, well, these are grids of 64 by 64. So that's the first 64 characters, then this. And I think that's good. I mean, it's reproducible that way. And then SVG, I think, is pretty easy to understand because natively renderable in your browser. So you literally just take the code and paste it in an HTML viewer or an SVG viewer or embed it in your website and .enter HTML it or whatever. Anyways, I guess the question was, yeah, so, any projects, so like Chain Faces, Squiggly, Tiny Boxes, 3 projects that I've done or been a part of, Avastars, Autoglyphs. And I know, I think Aave was doing something. They were trying to store their characters and they had a clever way of doing that. I think, what was that one called? Maybe it was NeoElastics. Don't quote me on that one. I can't remember, but I think there's been some smaller, or not smaller, but like kind of simpler, at least graphically, projects that were done where they put some emphasis on trying to store this stuff on chain. But I don't have a comprehensive list because, I mean, there's so many new projects coming out now. It's hard to say who's doing what. And I know a lot of them aren't putting any emphasis on this, but I would say the number is still pretty small, but I don't have a full list.
The same person, so Soft NFT, is also asking, ask Nate about his project Squiggly and Atlantes.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, this is like I'm like super proud of this project because I just think it's cool. Like, and only a few people really got to experience like the auctioning system and the way that it worked with the dynamic pricing. There's so many fucking cool, like, I hate to like pound my chest on this one, but there were like a lot of cool ass mechanics that were rolled out with this project where shit like the Lucky Bastard Award was like this automatic royalty that was awarded to holders of Squigglies. So if say you owned Squiggly number 10 and then the 11th one was minted, then you would get you'd have a 10% chance of winning 15% of the money that went into that auction or whatever. And there were all these like cool little things. It just was 6 months ahead of its time. Like if it was launched in the hype of this shit, I mean, it was popular when it got launched. It sold out extremely fast. And it like every auction would sell out within like a minute or whatever. So I guess it was as popular as it could have been anyways. But I think like the reach of projects that are coming out now is just much larger because you have a lot of other people. The whole Atlantis thing. Oh man. So that's an anagram for Nate's alt. Like I am a fucking troll. Like, so I created this project and I wanted to do this mysterious thing. Like I thought it was like hash masks when it came out. I just thought it was really cool and I was worried. I remember buying them and thinking, this is an anonymous person. Like this whole reveal thing could be a giant scam and could get exit scammed here and you wouldn't know who did it. But but ultimately worked out. They did what they said they were going to do. And it was like really cool that they had this still mysterious figure behind it. But that was my vision for the Atlantis thing. I ran this sort of guerrilla marketing campaign where you could promote on Twitter and on Discord to get your address entered into the contract, and you would automatically be receiving Discord and Twitter royalties just for being a promoter. I mean, there were people that made a few Ether just by literally promoting this project from this weird Atlantis figure that nobody knew who it was. And like that was my vision to launch it under.
Did people know it was you?
At first, no, nobody did. I had to come out because it was exhausting to run multiple accounts. Like I just wasn't good at, and I'm not like a natural like liar or whatever. So I couldn't, people who would like suspect it or something and be like, yeah, but don't tell anybody. And there was one person where I really got busted. I was in my chat and I think my phone was on the Atlantis one and my computer was on NateAlex Discord. And somebody asked, oh, so you're the creator of this project? And I thought I was on the Atlantis one, but I answered from mine. Yes. And then I was like, oh shit, I deleted it. And then there was a whole thing with the voice. There was what was it? on the Token Smart, like the whip. I was supposed to go do a voice thing on there, and I tried to find like a voice modulator. I like really tried to keep in character, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't pull it off, and it was so exhausting. And I just like came out and said, "Okay, guys, it's me or whatever." Like, fuck, and you know. So, being was that project. Like, I still now I'm kind of thinking of it like as my own like personal brand, which hasn't gotten a lot of love at all from me. Because we've been really busy with like company stuff. We've got VC guys that are like, so we've got stuff that we've got to build there, but that's like my personal, like any projects that I want to launch, I'll do it underneath that sort of umbrella and brand. And I want to tie that all in. I want them to be like similar, like thematically, and all like on-chain projects, and probably for the most part, like super scarce, like Squiggly's limited to 100 cap, which is extremely low. But like one of the things that I've tried to do, and I did it with Squiggly, is that like right now, if you launched a project with 100 cap and you had any network presence, like say like I do, and there was no consideration to that, the shit would just sell out in 30 seconds, and it turns into this little pump and dump, whoever's there. And I just hate that. I hate that about low cap projects, that the first person that's there and buys up a whole shitload, makes a bunch of money just flipping them, or the person that uses a bot to buy them all. So like, I want to be more thoughtful there and make sure I can get some sort of distribution or have some incentive mechanics to prevent that from happening. Because it's not really like, if I'm launching a project now, it's not really about like doing a cash grab or trying to make some money or something. Because like, absolutely, during this time, I could launch so many fucking things that would just, the way that people were doing the hash masks bonding curve, and they're copying that. The first 500 are 0.2 ether, and then it steps up to 0.9 and it just creates this like, oh shit, if I buy and then it gets enough word spread, then I can make 1,000 ether off some low effort shit. And I hate that. I really do. So I'm trying to not do that. Like, I want to be thoughtful and bring in creative new elements that will make people think, and that they won't necessarily know what the right plan of attack is. And even I won't know what the right play is. Like, even with Squiggly, I thought one of the coolest mechanics was like the dynamic pricing. So the way that it worked is it's called an auction, but it's kind of an auction lottery type thing. But like you buy into this auction and you buy shares in this auction, and your chance to win the Squiggly was proportional to the amount of ink cartridges that you had in this auction. So if you bought 50% of them, then you had a 50% chance to win the Squiggly in that auction. But if the whole auction sold out, the price would go up for the next auction. But if it didn't sell out, the price would go down. So it was supposed to create this like game theory hell where you want to buy as little as you could to win a Squiggly. And as long as the demand was low, then maybe you get an opportunity to get one cheaper later. But that wasn't really how it played out, because the demand was so high that they just kept selling out and the price kept going up. But I want to be more thoughtful on that with the next one. But I think I'll get it right. I learned some things from that one.
Yeah, and that's actually, I was reading actually today. Interesting that you talk about this, because I was reading about like the drop mechanism, and like how it kind of like creates sort of like, well, FOMO, realistically like speaking. And like, if you, and then like obviously, there's like the people that get the initial buy-in, like that are there, get, first come first serve. But then like all of the rest kind of like misses out. And the consequences of that, I guess it's exactly what you're saying here, and what you're trying to like overcome with this, that it's like realistically there's like a maybe better ways of like building for, I guess, like the whole ecosystem, or at least like a good portion of the ecosystem to kind of have at least a chance, like a little chance to get in. Which I mean, from what you said, it was what you did with like Project Squiggly in a way.
Yeah, I think and even with that, like I made it where the auctions were one every 4 hours. So it only lasted like 2 weeks, and it didn't have to last only 2 weeks, but I tried to like build in this timing to where, hey, I just heard about this project after a week, instead of you, because you only heard about it after a week, instead of you have to come in and pay 10x on the secondary market because a bunch of whales bought the whole supply up and marked it up huge and sold it to you out of FOMO or whatever. You got here a week late, but it didn't matter because the auction was rolled out in a way that you could still participate. Although it was highly competitive and it was super frustrating for people because the shit was still selling out. Like the auction would unlock and then it would sell out and people would go, fuck, I sent my transaction, it didn't go through. And it was like this gas war thing. I mean, it was like fun and frustrating, I think. But I think for the most part, like it taught people maybe a little bit more. Like there were people who'd been in the space a while that had never interacted with like a contract through Etherscan or whatever to try to get their edge that way. The end auctioneer function with Squiggly was like it was like a game theory thing too, where you could, if you called the end auction, you get a reward which was worth an amount of ether, but other people were calling it, so you needed to do more gas than them. But if you did too much gas, then you wasted too much money in gas, and then you eat your whole reward. So, but that was what kept people minting them and calling the auction when I was asleep or whatever. I mean, I could have wrote a bot. I could save myself money doing that, but like I thought that was a fun, engaging
part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I really look forward to like I desperately want to do like a solo project that will be like just groundbreaking to just have like kind of a wider reach now that NFTs have such a larger platform and like I'm just so desperately looking forward to like, because I've seen some projects that I thought Euler Beats was really cool. I thought like they brought a lot of new elements to the table. I liked Hashmask quite a lot. But a lot of the newer projects coming in, I feel like they're just reskins of what we've already seen. I haven't seen anything this year outside of those two maybe that I thought was really groundbreaking. I've seen some good aesthetic projects, and that could mean that they have their own staying power in their own community. But I personally kind of prefer like the technical marvels over maybe a beautiful aesthetic.
Yeah. And it seems like, you don't really like care about the money part. Like it's kind of like, if it happens well, but that's not really the important part.
Yeah, I mean, less so now. I mean, I definitely have been a grinder for a while, and I've been a high level collector and flipper, and but yeah, I think now it's definitely less important to me now. I mean, it's easier to say, because I've been in this space for years, and I have done pretty well. So yeah, I mean, to me, making 100 ether on some project or 200, even 300 ether, it's not life changing or anything. It just is. I want to launch. I think it would be cool to launch a project that was just fucking free, but it's so hard to balance that because you do it for free, and then the first 10 people there claim all the pieces, and then it's not significant there. You want a wide reach. You want a lot of collectors initially, and that somehow like balancing it with the cost is one of the ways to sort of ensure that spread. Because if one guy buys them all, then your reach is one, and then nobody knows about it. You kind of need 1,000 people talking about it on Twitter, on Discord, and I think that's what can kind of keep those guys that come in and build tools on top of your DApps, and I think that's like what's really important. But yeah, sorry, the short thing. I'm not really doing this, I guess, so much for the money. I mean, I have a bunch of logs in the fire or whatever with the companies doing well. I've already done well. I have an enormous collection, so if this space keeps growing, I mean, I don't need to do money grab projects just because the market is right for it or whatever.
Yeah. Actually, I've had there's another question that says, what about CryptoCats? Actually, it's just CryptoCats ?
Is that the one with the low cap that was, I guess, the second project right after? Or no, CryptoCats was after Mooncats. So I missed this one too. And people. So I did my bid on Genesis Cat, and people talked about CryptoCats and Mooncats and how they're better. And like my personal opinion, Yeah, I mean, that's great. People were selling these shits for tens of 20s of ethers or 50 ether, and that's cool. That is great. Like, for me personally, I like projects that have had maybe a little bit more time in the spotlight. Like, I mean, I hate to be the Cryptokitties shill. I really do, because it's easy for me to say this. I have a fucking enormous collection of Cryptokitties, so I obviously want them to do well. But I think that project was more significant. You go, like, it's not like I've been in this market for 3 years and I just missed these projects because I just wasn't paying attention or whatever. Like, I just thought they were insignificant, and now they're gold mines. But I expect that we're going to see maybe some more old gems that get dug up and people FOMO into them. And depending on their reach on Twitter, they'll shill the shit out of them. And, maybe a community gets built around them. And I mean, it's cool. I think anything built in 2017 is pretty significant, pretty cool. I miss them, so I'm not, I don't have a lot to say about it. I mean, maybe there'll be cool historic pieces. I would personally, would rather have a high-end CryptoKitty, because it's been, it really was the top NFT that for fucking years, like CryptoPunks finally passed it this year. And I think that that's fair. CryptoPunks are historic. They look cool as shit. They're, they got enormous whales buying them. So, like, now they have more influence, but, it hasn't always been that way. Dapper Labs, they did Top Shot. They did CryptoKitty. Like, these guys are pretty much legends in the space as far as what they've accomplished and done for the NFT world, the standard and stuff. But short answer, I guess, is, I mean, anything in 2017 has a good chance, as long as enough people are interested and they keep the community up and all that stuff. And
yeah. I actually wanted to ask you as well about NFT 42 and how did that come about, and also what you're building with Infinity Tokens. I hear that's your big project.
It is. So it came about really with Jim, I guess. I think Avastars actually was getting built without any concept of NFT 42. And then when I had been talking to Jim early last year, we had talked a little bit about doing this minting platform, and we did Infinity. We did like the on-chain metadata. We did the Arweave hosting of the images. So we actually had like a blockchain hosting solution in parallel with IPFS. And, we never really pushed the platform because the gas was always like super high. Like, we didn't really feel like it made a lot of sense for most people to mint on that platform. Maybe if you're somebody who's selling $5,000 art pieces, you don't care that you're spending $50 or $100 in gas to store all this shit on the token. And that was why we never really did a marketing push for it. We thought it was cool. We wanted to push, like, from an influence perspective, we wanted, on-chain royalties to become a thing. The composable future of contracts with on-chain metadata. So, like, that was like where we started with it. And then this year it's really been kind of reconceptualized, and we've came up with some good, unique innovations that's not really in the other kind of minting platforms, or really even other NFTs, like some of the stuff that we're doing. But I mean, ultimately we want to, like, it's really just a minting platform, I guess, is the simple way, but we want it to be more than that. Like, we're calling it like the Shopify, I guess, of NFTs. So where if you're a creator, you can come in and you click some buttons and you put in your information, and then it not only, creates your tokens, but it creates a storefront from you at your own web page. And it's like a white label solution of just a way for you to create your own NFTs and sort of have a store for them. Versus, if I create on Super Rare, then I'm under the Super Rare brand, or if I create on Nifty Gateway, I'm under Nifty Gateway's brand.
Yeah.
There's benefits to doing it either way. It just, this is the approach that we've kind of taken, where we're going to be sort of background layer here. We're Infinity Tokens, and we help spin all this stuff up. But if you are Banksy and you come in on the page, maybe it says at the bottom, powered by Infinity tokens if he wants it to. But outside of that, it's Banksy's NFTs. And that's like our focus, I guess, is to make it like that.
Do you think Banksy will come into the space?
You know, yeah, I think he will, actually. I think everybody will. I think anybody who's not being too stubborn to, you know, jump on board is going to come in. I don't know when he's going to come in, but yeah, I mean, everybody, this shit is going to be so fucking huge. Like, I don't know how many years it'll take. I don't know how many bear market mega dips we're going to have to deal with. But yeah, I think in 10 years, you know, you might even call them NFTs. They'll just be things like this. Just be, I bought this cool piece of art, or I bought, I don't even know. It's hard to even visualize all the things that could be done here, but I think that the space, there's just enormous room for growth.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, one last question to close it off. Like, what do you think is the next kind of like big innovation in the space, or at least on like from your side, what do you want to bring as, you know, like something in the space?
So I would love to see more like non-toy NFTs or non-collectible NFTs. And don't get me wrong, because I do love those. And I like, even the projects that I've done are toys or collectibles or whatever. And that's like their only utility or whatever. But like, I would love to see, I mentioned earlier, like the house on chain stuff, or like cars. I want to see like this real world sort of crossover between them, because I think they're really good for that. And, you know, I just can visualize this sort of super optimized crossover world where you can't really tell the difference. But I don't think that anybody has really made, there's been some efforts to like, oh, I'm going to do my art on this physical piece. And I guess the Beeple open editions had the physical ones. And there's been some other things like that I've seen. But I think that NFTs are much bigger than just art. I just think that that's like kind of the narrow, or art and collectibles. That's sort of the narrow path we're on now, because it's easy to understand and because it exists already. But I expect to see like non-toy crossover. I really think it won't be the next thing that happens. I don't know how hard it will be. Actually, I was kind of playing around with this idea. I guess I'll share it. Like, I'm fixing to sell my house. So I was like thinking I could make an NFT. I could maybe be the person to try to sell my house as an NFT just to see what the fuck would happen. Like, but, you know, I mean, maybe somebody in Europe buys it just because it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to own his house or some shit. Like, who knows what could happen here. But it's a tough like problem to solve, because even though I can create NFTs, I have to figure out, okay, who do I talk to like get the deed on a chain and make it official and legally, and like all this stuff that nobody knows and nobody's really done the work to figure out yet. I think that that's going to be like the cool next thing, is when we start seeing real world shit like really cross over into this space.
Everything becoming an NFT.
Everything.
Good. I think that's a good way to close it off. Thank you so much for your time. Like, super great to have a chat with you. So yeah, anytime you want to chat about NFTs, happy to. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. See ya.
And also thanks for our sponsor as well, which is Wall Street for this month. Thanks.
Yes.
Bye.
See ya.